Here we go, we have an empty stretch of road.
In 300 meters, make a U-turn.
Welcome back to the channel. No introductions needed with the Quattroporte. You've probably seen this in the previous video where we have uploaded on the wedding convoy, which if you haven't watched it, please go check it out. If you have, thank you so much for doing so. So I've spent quite a number of significant hours with this car, and I thought I could give you a lowdown of what this car feels like for the past 24 hours and basically my perceptions of the weird but unique Quattroporte. Here we go, we have an empty stretch of road.
In 300 meters, make a U-turn.
You will never get tired. Okay, I'll just take out this stupid card here. Now once again, this is the Quattroporte S. If you don't know what Quattroporte is essentially is 4-door. That's what it stands for. So that's why the Italians call it Quattroporte. Now this is not just the Quattroporte, it is the Quattroporte S. It has a 4.7 compared to the 4.2. So instead of carrying 391 horsepower, this carries 423 horsepower. So with that comes, well, adequate power, I would say,
Turn left.
for a saloon car. The engine itself comes from Ferrari, as we should all know. This is a 2009 model, so this comes standard with the ZF automatic gearbox instead of the automatic manual robotic gearbox that the Quattroporte initially came with when they first launched. We had numerous complaints about that car because the gearbox was uncharacteristic of such a luxury car, and it just felt clunky in general. So in 2007 or 2008, after they launched the car, they actually fitted the car with the automatic gearbox that is typically seen on the Gran Turismo, the 4.2 variants basically. So this is the product of that. Brand new, this car costed like about, I think, $470,000 for the Quattroporte S variant, while the basic 4.2 Quattroporte automatic started at about 430 or 420. I could be wrong, so correct me on that if I have gone wrong in that margin prices. Let's start off with something that we can all relate to, and that's petrol. Now with a 4.7 liter V8 engine, you will not be surprised if I told you that with how we've been driving typically, which is essentially hooning around but at a very, very safe speed, this car racks about 4.3 kilometers per liter. Now 4.3 kilometers per liter, it is a lot. You can barely get half a tank of fuel if you topped up maybe about $80. Brakes are good, that's for sure. So yeah, this car drinks relatively a lot. Let's not also forget that this car actually weighs about 2 tons. So while this car has that grunt and has that horsepower to actually zip around traffic in cities like Singapore or smaller cities perhaps like maybe UK or in Malaysia perhaps, this is adequate, I would say. But you will feel the tremendous lack of power after you actually step on the gas pedal, because I shall demonstrate to you right now. Yeah, so you will hear the noise, but you don't really feel the power of the car. But at the same time, you will still get a sense of enjoyment every time you step on the gas pedal, because the oral pleasure that comes out of the back of this car, it is just immense. This is just as good as any other Italian supercars can be. We've all known Maseratis for that. It is unfortunately very, very devastating to know that the latest generations of the Quattroportes were actually turbocharged. So it is something that I've desperately missed out of the Quattroporte and Maserati in general as a brand, because I think they've diluted somewhat, which is why this particular Quattroporte is something that was very, very special to me. Now this car is equipped with sports mode. So sport mode, as with every car, basically it changes the dynamics of the car. The chassis is more responsive, the throttle is more responsive. You get a slightly louder exhaust note by a very marginal decibel. It's not something that you'll be able to hear very prominently. Okay, let's talk about the ride comfort of this car. As I said, this car is actually
Zero.
this car is actually a premium Italian sedan. So you're talking about cars of a similar league, so cars like perhaps the BMW 7 Series or even the 5 Series, the Mercedes S-Class or the E-Class, and the Audi A8 then. Despite the fact that this is a Continental, it is a sports saloon. If you can afford a car of this caliber, chances are you are not a person of my age. Person of my age, I'm only getting allowance of like $10 per day. I can't afford this car, I can't even afford the fuel for this car. So if you are able to afford this kind of car, chances are you are of a certain age. And there is a sport button over here which actually firms up the suspension, and the ride can be quite bumpy. So I'm not sure exactly this is the kind of ride that everyone would actually enjoy. Safe to say that the suspension is quite stiff. I have had backaches along the journey, especially when I'm stuck in traffic. There is a lack of lumbar support, and I can just never find the right sitting position of this car. Slightly awkward, I would say. The steering position, I would say, is perfectly fine. You get nice ample size steering wheel with perforations across the side on a 10:2 position with a sport grip. It gives you the sense of occasion that you want to drive fast with this car, but the only issue is that you cannot really drive fast. I think 0 to 100 takes about 4.7 seconds. So this car is offered by F1 Auto Cars. It's a 2009 Quattroporte. This car is going, I think, about 100k, and it has, I think, about 8 to 7 months left on the CO. So if you do buy this car, you are still eligible for a PAF if you are deregistering the car within the 7 months before the CO expires. Otherwise, this car will be good enough for another 10 years, I believe, with proper maintenance histories and servicing. I think you will be able to enjoy this car for what it's worth for the next 10 years. You will need a stronger financial backing up if you're gonna be able to enjoy this car in its full entirety. Now, what about the drivability of this car, you may ask? It is not as intimidating as it actually sounds. So driving this car, yeah, it's really not that hard, guys. Now I also want to talk about the buttons on the steering wheel. Italian cars are known for its quirkiness, I would say. Yeah, it's known really for its quirkiness, and this Quattroporte is no exception. There are buttons on the steering wheel, but they don't really function. I don't even know why they're there in the first place. The ergonomics is a bit quirky in the sense that there is every button that only does one thing and one thing only. You want to open the rear sunshade, you actually have to press a button to open it. The same button doesn't close the sunshade, it's actually a separate button. So in a sense, that's quite weird. And there are actually, if you can see here, there are buttons behind the steering wheel. There are 6 of them actually. No idea what they do, but they're just there. I've tried working with the buttons, but they're not corresponding to anything. I've heard that they are supposed to control the volume for the audio, but you know, it doesn't work. There is a button over here which is supposedly doing that, but it doesn't work. This is for changing track and for changing, I think, the audio band, the radio band doesn't work either. Voice command doesn't work either. Muting the audio doesn't work either. I don't know what works. The light works. The parking sensor button here works. I don't think I've mentioned this as well, but there are pedals over here, and they remain positioned in the steering rack, which is good. It doesn't move around. The only problem that I face with this setup is that The indicator stop are actually pretty far away from the usual reach of point for European cars. So you have to actually stretch pretty much. So you do get a sunroof. So if you retract that and you turn some lever around here, you will actually be able to retract the sunroof and get some audible exhaust notes along the way. You don't get a reverse camera for a 2009 car, especially for this one, surprisingly. Typical cars like even a Toyota Camry back in 2009, it already comes with a reverse camera. And this car is around $400,000 brand new. And it doesn't come with a reverse camera. It takes a while for you to actually understand the size of this car. Parking could be a little bit tricky, especially if you're not used, if you have already been used to reverse camera, because a lot of cars are equipped these days. So yeah, I guess those are the only quirks that I can find for now. You may watch Doug's video for all his bashings on the previous Quattroporte. I would say 80% of what that Quattroporte that Doug reviewed will carry on to this facelifted Quattroporte back in 2009. But thankfully, the 20% that made the car absolutely trashy for the first generation has been taken off from the car. So you can sing some joy in that with this car. You just cannot get over that sound. You just want to keep playing with the pedals and with the throttle just to hear that symphony that bellows out from that two amazing oval exhausts. Yeah, and despite some of the flaws that I've just mentioned and everything, you tend to forgive all of that, really. Yeah, this car really just takes off the bucket list for the best car, the best exhaust sounding car that you can buy today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Do give it a thumbs up if you really enjoyed this video, and hopefully we'll be able to get our hands more on such marks of vehicle. If you do enjoy such contents, please do let us know. If you do have any better ideas that we could implement in our videos, please also do let us know on that one, because we would love for you to actually experience that along with us as well. So in the meantime, it's me signing out, and we will see you in our next video.